For this assignment, you're going to learn to add a little bit more realism to your Photoshop projects. So here we're going to start by downloading a picture of a bookcase. And the goal here is to fill up this bookcase with different objects. You're required to use the first two objects that I give to you, and then the rest is up to you. So you want to drag and drop this bookcase image into Photoshop, and then proceed to download the mannequin here, also into Photoshop. So I'm going to download it. I'm going to drag and drop it here on my workspace, hit enter. One of the things you want to know is to rasterize your images. So when you drag in the mannequin image, you're going to notice it has a little icon here on the bottom right hand corner. I'm going to right click and I'm going to rasterize. What that does is it sometimes doesn't let you edit certain things on that image if it is not rasterized. So sometimes you'll come across that. So first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this white background. So I'm going to actually use my magic wand, and I want to make sure that anti-alias and contiguous are checked. I'm going to click. I'm going to zoom in, Control+, hold down Shift because I have other parts of my mannequin that I need to add to my selection. Okay. Once I have all of this selected, I'm going to hit the Layer Mask button. And here I need to inverse it, so I'm going to hit Control-I to inverse. And I'm going to grab my Move tool, and I'm going to put my mannequin somewhere on the shelf. So it looks like I need to change the size. So I'm going to hit Control-T. I'm going to resize him. I'm holding down Shift to keep him from stretching kind of any weird way. So holding Shift will lock it into its proportion. And you can actually choose whether or not you want it to be on whatever level. Sometimes you're going to notice that you have these white lines. This is because sometimes the magic wand doesn't get like the edges. So I'm going to grab my paintbrush. Remember, with your paintbrush on your layer mask, a kind of black paintbrush hides pixels. Right now my opacity on my brush is set to be low. I'm going to change it up. I want to make sure my brush is set to a hard edge so I don't get like the blurry edges. So I'm kind of cleaning up the edges of my image. So now I need to add shadows. So the quick way to add shadows is down here at the FX button. I'm going to hit FX, drop shadow. And you'll see here like it pops in a shadow. Here I have the little dialog box where I can change kind of the settings. Here this doesn't look super realistic because it looks like he's floating. So the trick is to change the angle. So I want to change the angle to where it's a little bit kind of to the lower, so the light source is kind of shining kind of from above or from right in front of the mannequin. And here you can change like how blurry it is. So I think I'm going to go ahead and set it to be here and hit OK. And then you want to proceed by downloading the book image and going through the same process where you eliminate the background, make sure you're using layer masks. The trick with the books is, though, you want to have it on the bottom shelf because up here the perspective doesn't quite work. The angle of the book kind of follows along the angle of the bottom shelf here. So with this, I'm going to hold down Shift, add to that background. Might turn up my tolerance. Right now it's set to 10. I'm going to set it to 30, so it's a little bit more picky, or less picky. So that way it selects more. Now with this, it's going to sometimes select too much. That's okay because we can always fix it. So I'm going to pop a layer mask on it, Control-I to inverse it, Control+ to zoom in. I'm going to go in with a paintbrush set to white. You'll see here I accidentally erased parts of the books here. I'm I'm going to clean up this edge. There's a trick where if you click, hold down Shift, and then now I'm going to click again, it kind of connects point A to point B. You'll see if I click, Shift, click, oh, that didn't show very well. Click, Shift, click, it makes like a point A to point B. So that's a nice little trick if you're trying to get like a straight edge. Right now I'm trying to clean up the edges. I'm going to switch to black. Here, I clean up the edges here. Alright, so this looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom out. And again, I'm going to go onto the book layer, go to FX. Think of this as an effect. You're adding a shadow effect. So drop shadow. I might change the distance a little bit. I might not mess with the spread. Hit OK. And so sometimes what I'll also do is add an additional layer. I'm going to double click the layer and title it Shadow. I'm going to actually paint in some of my own shadows. So shadows always have kind of like blurry edges. So I'm going to ensure my paintbrush has a blurry edge. So I'm going to grab a brush that has a 0% hardness. I'm going to go ahead and like paint in. This should kind of be all dark here because this book is kind of overlapping. With this is obviously too dark. So I'm going to take the opacity down on this layer. Like that. And that looks a little bit more realistic. So from here you want to add at least 5 more of your own objects. Make sure you're using layer masks, good selections, and when you're all finished you want to upload it to Classroom.